Please, darling, stop saying nonsense. It doesn't even make sense.
Megumi is crap. We start with this marvel, and truly a marvel, of a really intense drawing by Suguri and Maru, where it looks like they're about to kick each other's ass. Well, it's up to each person to judge how they're going to do it, whether as rivals, in combat, or as partners. Gee, as I said, it's open to interpretation. This reminds me of one of those Naruto endings, where they would draw Naruto and Sasuke as yaoi characters, like super hyper mega detailed, but for some reason, I mean with no real reason at all, just because, as we say around here, right? Besides the photo, we see both Dabura and Yuka, the counterparts of the main characters in the image, and we'll probably learn more about them after this chapter. No, because this image of Maru and Suguri clearly implies that the chapter will be about the fight between these two. No, because we're not going with Yuka and Dabura to hell. The theory was that the CAP would be between Maru and Suguri, ending with Yuka's fight being introduced. Instead of that, Gege decided it was a better idea to put his dick on the table and show that the son of a bitch, when he wants to, and especially when he doesn't, they aim at him. With a gun to his head to make him draw those lazy lines, he can actually write something genuinely interesting. Gege was never a talentless mangaka, but rather an unfortunate one. And when he realizes that Yuka can't even stand without wobbling anymore, Mino brings her a wheelchair. Bro, they send a terminally ill, paralyzed girl to fight Satan. That makes no sense. But at that moment, as she boards the plane, Yuka starts to reflect on her life and the path she's taken so far, wondering what she would do if she were born again. She admits that next time, she would like to be the older sister. She would like to hold back a little when training with her little brother, let him choose what to eat first, teach him tricks in video games, and even help him study. As she thinks about that, she remembers her brother was always the complete opposite. He never held back, ate everything, even snacks, and humiliated her in games. And all of this makes her think about how Suguri really was a very bad older brother. She says it with a melancholic smile, not hatred or contempt. Despite his flaws, he was still her brother until the end, even during the flight. She teases him for accompanying her on the trip, telling him that she's not pretending to be strong or anything like that. She just doesn't want her brother to see her in strange or unusual situations. She knows that her brother is the kind of person who would tell a girl that she looks cuter without makeup or something like that. She ends by telling her brother he doesn't understand a woman's heart, especially his sister's. She shares a brief moment with her brother, or so she believes. While she thought her brother was by her side, it was Mino who was watching her, lamenting because it seems the tumor has already reached that point. And Mino in tears. Seeing what they're doing to this poor girl, he simply holds her hand and asks her to please forgive them. There's a brief flashback where young Yuka, barely able to defend herself, tried to save a friend from a curse so weak it barely qualified as one. Still, her brother had to save her. At that moment, Yuka knew that no matter how hard it was, she could have easily defeated that spirit on her own. But that friend she was trying to protect would surely have died while she was still fighting. There, she realizes she always depended on her brother's kindness, even though it didn't change how he treated her. Like many siblings, they fought and teased each other. From time to time, that kindness made her brother not judge or reproach her for absolutely anything. The sibling conflict was shown at the start of the play, but never developed further. Mundane fights between siblings that, even though they had an internal conflict triggered by the inheritance of the ring, it was clear that this never made them forget that, after all, they are siblings. Now, as their bond nears its end, both become emotional and reveal the true nature of their relationship. Conflicts and inheritances don't matter, not even what their own parents or families impose on them. They were inseparable at first, but now the world imposes an order that will separate them forever. They believe in each other and that they'll always be there, no matter what. He's ready to die facing an enemy whose real power is unknown to him, as long as he can give Yuka one last stretch worth living, while she is willing to sacrifice herself to give the world her brother lives in a chance to move forward. Perhaps the illusion of her brother's presence, even in this terrifying moment, gives her the strength to continue. Even when, surely, deep down in her heart, she knows she should go back, that she should have a moment of peace before everything ends, that she deserves to be selfish for once. Despite everything, she chooses to fight and use her life for a much greater purpose. Honestly, I wish I had felt that way at some point in Jujutsu Kaisen, but I think I've become too sentimental about this. So let's move on to what's next. Now, before the ruined city, crows from the past appear, and a character emerges among them. Ui Ui, the incestuous one, Or the incestuous woman's brother, also incestuous. I don't know, whatever. He faces Dabura, declaring himself leader of the new shadow-style school. He stands before him just to thank the king of the distant planet for his presence, but why is he even thanking Dabura for being here? Simple YY is basically the kind of guy who says, dude, but were the old times better, dude? I mean, why is there peace now and not war? I don't get it. Para's son's incestuous intentions toward his sister seem to completely fascinate him. Better times, the better times. To that,
Kuna, come here. I have something for you. To tell you something. Hey, Yuji, what do you want? See, Big Booty, I have a really dark flash and I need a hole to try it in, moi.
he even brought the son of a bitch who I assume are his grandchildren, likely conceived through incest. He only brought them because, wait, you don't get it? These kids grew up with too much peace. They need to understand the true essence, wimp. Anyway, Uiwai keeps pestering Dabura, asking him to please show them true terror and put on a show of destruction. I don't know. This guy's unbearable. In the end, Dabura apologizes because, of course, even if he wants to put on a show for them, his opponent is a girl with terminal cancer. I'm in a wheelchair, so don't expect much, but Uiwai seems to know a bit and says he'll be satisfied with the fight. As the plane flies over the battlefield and the doors open, Mino, through tears, watches that calm, broken face against the sun. Yuka, after thinking about it a lot, decides that if she is born again, she would like to be his little sister once more. Oh, wonderful, what a kiss, and then watch out for this. The airplane door opens and Yuka, still in her wheelchair, falls out. And farming. Now, like in a chat, she falls from the plane, lands in front of Dabur, and immediately does that hand pose. Yes, without thinking twice, as soon as she touched the ground, Yuka realized that the only way she could have a chance was by using the most powerful weapon known to the world of sorcery. That's right, gentlemen, we adapt to Modulo. The panty wetter has returned, and now there's no doubt about it. Gege knows perfectly well that Megumi was, is, and always will be the biggest fraud in the entire history of anime characters. The damn crybaby summoned this son of a bitch against some random blonde guy right in the middle of Shibuya. Someone he could have beaten with any of his other shadows, putting all his teammates and a lot of civilians in the city at risk. And then fucking Sukuna had to show up and eat him, literally wiping out half the city in the process. However, now comes Yuka, who, despite having terminal brain cancer, a very serious condition, also experiences delusions and hallucinations. Despite everything, Yuka was smart enough to summon a hydrogen bomb to counter another, like a hydrogen bomb versus Tsar Bomba. Not just against someone who called her ugly, but all in one panel. She used the 10 Shadows technique more effectively than Megumi did throughout the original work. By the way, the artist's work is beautiful. Just saying. If the user summons Mojabragas for the first time, they must defeat it to control it. All 10 Shadows users used it only as a last resort since none could control it. Then Yuka, showing real guts, immediately hides in his own shadow after summoning it. It's like crawling into your own foreskin just so Panty Wetter can attack Dabura. Aura, gentlemen. Aura. Intellect, brains, guts, cancerous brain. And don't come at me with that, okay? Megumi didn't know he could do that, such a prodigy, yet can't think, damn it. But wait, the idiot! It seems he didn't know, since when they thought Yuji was dead, that's when Megumi finally did. Discovering, he found out he could, store objects in the shadows, but it never occurred to him to try getting in there himself. The prodigy, not insane, but, well, even if he had known, obviously it would never have occurred to him to use that against Mahoraga or against anyone in particular. I mean, he wasn't even able to defeat the rest of the shadows, just by using them. He had to return to his roots and dig deep to maximize the technique. If Mahoraga beats Dabura, does Yuka have to appear? Or will Mahoraga just kill everything? That's the interesting detail, friends. Yuka went to that fight and then to die. So if Dabura defeats Mojabraga, well, it's a double knockout. But if Mojabraga defeats him, then that's it. Yuka, she needed to reveal herself and be killed for Mojabraga to disappear. That's how the ritual works. You summon him, then either the summoner eats Mojabraga and controls him, or Mojabraga eats the summoner and anyone nearby before vanishing. Or the strangest one, that someone outside the ritual eats the adaptable one. And just like that, he made his nest in Shibuya. Something that obviously is practically impossible to happen. By the way, not much is said about La Salvada, who put his nest there. He thought he was the smartest for deciding right away to wait for Megumi to get stronger before possessing him. But I doubt he ever thought that guy would be the most suicidal person he'd ever know. He had to destroy a whole city to save him and fix the mess. Now, with only these two left on the battlefield, Dabura launches his attack. An attack with a name humans can't pronounce, involving a gaze and murderous intent so strong it becomes real matter. Something like the secret's out of me, I'll never let you see. The chapter ends with a box that says, for the first time in history, Mojobraga begins to adapt to a technique from outer space. Simply put, gentlemen, I was truly surprised by what happened with Mahoraga. I didn't expect it at all, because to begin with, at no point were we told that Yuka was the possessor of the Ten Shadows technique. But well, it probably never manifested as such. After months passed, she found out and said, it's cool. Anyway, I don't want to go into too much detail here because I'll do that in the section on. Last time, I expected this chapter to continue Maru and Suguri's battle. I'm not sure if chapter 16 will keep the Dabura versus Mahoraga fight going or follow this chapter's style. Will we return to the Suguri and Maru fight? It's very likely that will happen since the cliffhanger of Mahoraga appearing is much stronger than the one we had before. So yes, I really think so, yes. In episode 16, they'll go with Suguri and Maru. If not, the pathing would be really strange, but, well, who knows? Honestly, and maybe just to create hype moments for Nora. Mahoraga won't kill Dabura, but he'll treat him like he did Goku. Ultra Instinct to Jiren. Leave him weakened before disintegrating, so Yuka, without Mahoraga, can use the remaining shadows to try to defeat his weakened foe. The thing is, let's remember that the longer Mahoraga is around, the stronger Mahoraga gets. He's someone very, very, very strong and very, very, very dangerous. And even so, we still don't know the exact dimensions of Dabura. We know he's extremely strong, but is Mahoraga stronger than Goyo Satoru? Is he stronger than Sukuna? I don't think so, even as a joke. We'll see, but something could completely disprove this theory. Yuka discovered his ability to use 10 shadows during the 2 months he battled cancer. This complicates things, as you must defeat each shadow before using them. I can't imagine Yuka with brain cancer fighting against creatures that are, for example, I don't know, a bull that hits harder the faster it runs, and things like that. Without Imagumi, damn it. Or actually, I was going to say even Imagumi couldn't beat him, so Yuka couldn't either. But look, seeing how he is, Imagumi weighs less than a rat. In this fight, I really see the following possibilities. Number 1, Mahoraga loses, but leaves Dabura badly injured. Yuka knew about his 10 shadows, but kept it quiet, likely already taming several to help him beat Dabura. Meanwhile, Mojobragas loses, leaving Dabura severely hurt. But Yuka, in fact, only discovered his ability 2 months ago, so he doesn't have enough shadows under his control. And sadly, he is defeated. Does Dabura kill her or spare her? That's up to number 3, Mahoraga wins, which may seem anticlimactic. Let's remember, if that happens, Yuka would have to step out of the shadows and let himself be killed. So the adaptable one ends up destroying everything, which would be strange. But the most important thing here is, what do you think about it? I'll be reading your comments now. There's an additional factor that also involves the fight between Maharu and Suguri. And that's if, in case you don't remember. In Jujutsu Kaisen, a rule states that whoever has the 10 Shadows technique automatically becomes the Zenin clan leader. Yuka would now be the leader, possibly realizing she had to face an enemy like Dabura, and that Mojobraga might not be enough. As clan head, she demanded Rika's ring from her brother, potentially creating a 4th scenario where Mojobraga loses. But Yuka decides to bring out Rika to keep fighting, but this time actually being able to control the spirit in question. Although, of course, we would have to see what kind of attitude Rika has about all this, because, of course, the one who summons her is the granddaughter of her beloved. But it's not the granddaughter she defends from Maki. I mean, it's the other one she actually slept with, Yuta. Anyway, now we have to look at things from another perspective. And all of this also leads me to theorize that if Yuka, for more than reasonable reasons, decided to keep the ring just in case, that would mean that Suguri only has himself and his sword to face Maru, which could end very badly. I mean, it's not like superhuman strength, and a sword are very useful against a mini Goyo who was able to create a spaceship, right? Can you imagine if, at the end of this story, it's basically Suguri dying against Maru, while Yuka wins, experiencing the tragedy of having survived a Sukuna 2, but losing her brother and still being doomed to die? I'd say I don't think the author's capable of that, but poof, we're talking about Gege. Honestly, I think it's more likely that Yuka left the ring to her brother as a sign of affection when she was on the verge of death, or something like that, which might break our hearts next week. At least Suguri wouldn't be so messed up. Either Suguri helps Rika escape, Maru betrays him, or Yuka's surprise move changes everything. Who knows? Maybe next week we'll learn they kept Goyo's eyes in the freezer. Uchiha and Suguri put them on, so now he has infinity. This is getting ridiculous. Let's end the module next week.
I'll help you, Suguri.
The end. Very good episode again. Now we're hyped for Mojobraga up to our freaking eyebrows. No need to say it speaks for itself. I love the art. Let's see how it goes with the passing of events. I don't know if in the end it looks like it will. That module will be a short manga. No, since we have 15 chapters and this arc is already advanced. I don't know if the manga will end up being 20 or 20. Something chapters. I don't know. I don't know what Gage's intention is. Honestly, I wish this could continue longer. It has great potential. But hey, look, I always say one thing. It's better to end something well than to drag it out and have it end up, well, disturbing. See you next week, ciao.